Should start any second.
Recording is on.
Okay, hey, welcome everyone to the Bitcoin Sign Guide Jam session number 17. I just shared a document in the chat with just a few notes. And I think usually what we do is we review the roadmap, the last milestones. So in that Google Doc, let me see if I can pull that one up somehow. Here in my background. Let me see. So there's a link to a roadmap in here. And should be coming up.
Yeah, this looks cool.
Cool. Nope, wrong one. Here we go. Okay, so Pavlinex put that one together last week. Looking really good. Have you had a chance to look at this one? No.
Come on, guys. Please don't say no. Please don't say no.
No,
This
it's
is the
fine.
first time I've seen it in his view. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. User feedback, Pavlinex. Yeah, so here we see the different milestones. And if you go through from top to bottom, so milestone 8 and 9 for designing Bitcoin products. And we have one task, which is the open design page. Alexa, I think that one's assigned to you. Do you want to chat about it or no?
Yeah. I thought I was ready, but then I ran into that Hemingway, and it's the first time that I used that Hemingway thing.
Yeah.
So it's taken me a little bit more time, but it'll be ready soon.
Awesome.
Hopefully.
So you're right. You're in the copywriting state.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting though to discover that a lot of the sentences are way too complex. So and I'm almost done. I just need to touch up on a couple of paragraphs, and then I'll try to pull up the PR.
Awesome,
And
cool. That's good to hear.
That is likely to get done today, which is a good thing.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we change that from a to-do to in progress?
I don't know.
How do I even do that one?
I changed it already. You can do that from the roadmap itself. If you have the access, you should be able to just toggle over that status, and there is a drop down. And if in case there is no drop down, then perhaps I need to give you guys an access to change it. But basically, you can control all the issues and everything just from the roadmap thing. So both assigning and even assigning is way easier than it is on the issue, because you can assign people without them having to comment on an issue. So it's management wise, it's quite good, I guess. And just one comment though, you can access this by going to the Bitcoin Design repository, and then you click on the projects there and the projects beta, because this feature is still in development, and GitHub will probably soon push it as the main project view that they have.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm
not even logged in this browser here, so that's why I'm not seeing it. Cool.
Oh yeah, that's why.
Too many browsers. Okay, cool. Awesome, Alexa. That's good to hear. Let me know if you need help with PR or just proofread or anything else. And then in milestone 9, what do we have? Funding a wallet? Is that still in progress? Well, first we have the onboarding landing page. Alexa, that's also one of yours. How do you feel? How are you doing with that one?
Yeah, that one's a little bit further behind. I'll get the open design done today, and onboarding next.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. No rush with those. I think nobody's particularly, like, you're not blocking anybody else, so it's all good. And then funding a wallet, is that still a thing?
Yep. So I just addressed all the comments earlier with that Stephen left. I just need to add a few details about describing the use case for with Lightning services and without Lightning services. And then that's going to pretty much be done. So that shouldn't take too long. I could get that done when I wake up in the morning, which 8 or so hours from now. But that should be able to push that PR tomorrow and get that finished. Sorry that took so long. I just kept rewriting things and changing stuff. And I don't know, does anyone have any like feedback around that? Like I wasn't too sure if that was the best approach to go about things, but just if we're going with the whole Lightning first approach, I felt like Lightning services was the kind of approach to take. And particularly I wanted to do the Lightning services page so I could cross-link from the funding a wallet page to that page. That's why I opened the PR for that as well. It's a little bit probably early. There's no images and it probably could be fleshed out a little bit more, but there was a lot of heavy lifting, like content-wise, that I wanted to kind of do in that Lightning services page that I didn't want to like go into detail on the funding a wallet page. I didn't feel like that was the place to do it. So I wanted to kind of have those both PRs up at the same time.
Yeah, I began reviewing that one. It looks very solid. I think I already told you that I really like the direction in which that page is going, and in particular, the how you structure it is really awesome. I was just unsure if, well, like my question to Bosch is, how do we distinguish the onboarding and how do we distinguish the like the content in receive, like that content there, and in the onboarding, funding a wallet seems like something that can be a little bit tricky to distinguish, because like what do we consider onboarding? Is that like just the first transaction, and in that case do we really want to mention the LSPs, which I do think it's an important, but is it a little bit more appropriate for the receive part? And should we on onboarding discuss just like, does user can earn Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, or is it like whole? Because to me the line between onboarding and other sections is getting like thinner, so I'm not sure. I began reviewing it and the content is good. I'm just not sure if it should be there at this point, or is it something that we should add in the receive. But overall, great work and great restructuring, and Bosch did also a good job, talking about different approaches an LSP can take and things like that. I have a few comments. I'm still in progress of reviewing it. It should be done today, so I'm just not sure where we should fit it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, if you can leave those comments, I'll read them in the morning, and then I can address those, and then hopefully get it merged sometime tomorrow, Arvo. But yeah, I definitely agree. There's some overlap that's probably going to happen with the receiving Bitcoin in the payment section and the funding a wallet. But I guess we could kind of go into the other kind of receiving methods within receiving a Bitcoin. Like there is definitely other things that we could kind of talk about and discuss, but I haven't really gave it a whole lot of depth of thought. But I'm happy to take on the receiving Bitcoin section in the payments, because there's probably a lot of overlap, and I can kind of work with the funding a wallet page and that page and kind of make sure it doesn't have lots of like overlapping content.
Yeah, I see the funding a wallet or the Lightning service. I see that as kind of a bit like the private key management section, where there are different techniques that can be used. But then the actual user experience is a different story about how you actually present that and how users interact with that. So one is just kind of how it works, the other one, how it's used, or how to allow users to interact with this. But yeah, there's for sure good points about the restructuring. And I feel like that's, to me, that's another topic coming later related to this, which is if we get rid of some on-chain stuff in payments, then where do we put it? I think it'd be a shame if we delete it. It's almost like we need a separate major case study that only deals with on-chain, where we can put things like coin selection.
Yeah, that was kind of my suggestion. I think we should probably keep that stuff, but maybe just put it aside for now. And then eventually, once we finish Lightning, we can maybe start working on a more like a on-chain, like vault type savings case study that uses a lot of that content and focuses on just on-chain stuff and not so much Lightning. But
yeah, which we have with the savings account case study, which is the multi-sig one. That's purely on-chain. Things could just move there. But anyways, do you want to go from top to bottom with this one, or continue here in the roadmap, or?
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, then we covered milestones 8 and 9. And then in 10, let's see, so 10 was the one where we didn't plan it in originally as tightly, but everybody just kind of said what they wanted to work on, and I think that worked out pretty well. What do you think? Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I think we got through that milestone pretty quick. I think we reached it on time, didn't we?
I think so, yeah. That was pretty nice to see. So we had Bitcoin backups, automatic cloud backup, and manual backup. Stephen is working on those two, and I believe there's also just minor review needed, right? Those are all part of the same PR.
Yeah, that one I reviewed it. It's already done. Basically, there was a blocker about whether or not we should mention automatic in the cloud backup, and Steven pushed that change. So there are like a little bit back and forth between Bosch and Steven, but I think those can all be addressed later on. And most importantly is that all of those changes that Bosch was maybe suggesting can also fit later a little bit better once we do the restructure of the guide itself. So I think this one can probably, I will take like the final look, but I think this one can probably be merged, and then I promise to do a follow-up PR to submit a change where we remove the automatic mention in the onboarding section as well. So I'll take that one. Probably I will open a new issue for that one as well. But overall, I think it's pretty complete because it's been like reviewed already by a few people. So if anybody wants to, review as well, just feel free to.
Just one thing that I would suggest maybe elaborating on in the multi-key is 2 multi-sig wallets like Moon. We could talk about Moon like specifically, but I don't think there is any content in that section about that. I actually haven't done like a deep dive on Moon and how that kind of works, but it might be something worth touching on.
Sorry, where were you thinking of adding this?
In the multi-key, in private key management. It only talks about like, I think 3 or 5, 1 or 2, 2 or 3, but there's also like, the case with 2 or 2, like with Blockstream Green, Moon, and just a few wallets that do it. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably just going to be small details somewhere, but just maybe we could talk about it, mention it.
Yeah, they basically use the auto-signing setup, which the savings account case study also covers. Where they have one key and, they just automatically sign things for you.
When do they not sign something for you?
I believe you can revoke it or you can transfer, but I have to double check that one.
Yeah, I just haven't looked into it in detail. I thought there might be some kind of like a restriction, say if you want to like transfer all your funds, they wouldn't let you or something. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it, so I just wasn't sure, but I thought that'd be something just worth adding.
Yep. Okay, cool. And then section landing page, everything looking pretty good here. Then we have milestone 11. And milestone 11 is the payment section, which is the biggest chunk, I think, because Lightning is so different and pretty complex in that. I find it way more complex in terms of payments than Bitcoin because some of the technology is still maturing. And then we have a few extra things that snuck their way in, which one was one at the top, the Lightning Services page, which I think looks pretty good. I think Stephen and I reviewed that one already. I think it's more about just writing, formatting writing, right?
Yeah, I'll go through those comments you guys left tomorrow, and then just I need to get some like images to make it look a bit nicer. But if you guys are all right with the kind of way that it's going, like I'm happy to change things quite a bit if you guys are okay with that. It's supposed to just be like a supplementary page that people can dive into if they want to like learn about the more nitty gritty kind of each kind of Lightning service.
Yeah. And then the personas, Pavlanex, that's something that you brought up.
Yeah, one thing I noticed is that we don't really talk about personas in the guide, which is, I guess, important steps to have like typical user persona. Now we can probably categorize that a little bit more in depth and have like, I don't know, merchant type of application persona, and then exchange type of application persona, and then like wallet. But Patricia Estevao already did a good job at doing an actual research and talking about personas. So this issue in particular was just about putting a real persona from her research into the getting to know your users page, where it just mentions like a random persona meetup. So like that was the issue. Like the goal of that issue is to just replace that. But like after diving a little bit deeper in that page, I'm now like feeling that probably we should rename it to be persona page, because getting to know your users doesn't seem like really Bitcoin related. It's like more general type of information. And I think if we could offer basically integrate her personas from her research into that page, it would probably provide a little bit more Bitcoin focused content. I can probably format it and create an images out of her research, and then maybe you guys could actually make those lame images a little bit prettier, I guess. But I'm not sure. I just if anybody feels strongly about having or not having personas, maybe we can comment on that issue, because I'm still unsure on the direction. But I do feel that that page really lacks like personas and then user journeys and things like that, which are important things when somebody wants to design. And Christoph, you did brought up a concern about like having, in a way, typical personas that can limit people in how they think about products. So maybe we need to make that clear as well in the guide, that this aren't the Bitcoin personas. They're just a persona from a certain research, and people would probably, if they have a budget, can do research on their own and figure things out how to make it suitable for their own application.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Oh, go ahead, Alexa.
Oh, sorry. No, I think Patricia has an explanation that's quite nice about not limiting kind of your mindset on these personas. So it may be a good thing to look back in that and maybe just fit that into the content.
Yes, her research, she now actually has a website. She put it on a website, and it's way better structured than on GitHub. But I do feel that like it would get more, it would get more attention if it was integrated within the guide. And if you search for a persona, we don't have like a keyword for that even mentioned in the guide, which is a little bit weird if this is UX guide and we don't talk about personas. But yeah, what I would like to focus on that. It's not really Lightning related, so if you guys think that I can focus on something else, that's completely fine. I can revisit this. Otherwise, I would perhaps like to see how I can, from my perspective at least, improve the page and maybe split things up a little bit there, so that it's a little bit more tightly integrated with her research, because I think she's done a good job there. But yeah, any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, so just from my real, from my agency and freelance design experience, a lot of projects I've worked with have not used personas or customer journeys or flow charts or diagrams and things like that. I think it's something that can be super helpful, but I don't think it's something that's essential. But it really just depends on what we're doing. And there are, I think in getting to know your users, there are all of these tools that I think it would be really good to show them, because it helps people systematically go through this process, where they don't just have to have some conversation and everybody makes some guesses and somebody says, well, I don't like the word power user, and then we call it something else or so. But it provides a systematic approach, and people can choose what they want to do, and then they end up with something that's ideally robust and allows them to make decisions afterwards. So I think it's a good idea to flesh that one out, and then provide some techniques, some ways to go through this process, some tools that they can use, and then they can still figure out what's appropriate for their project and their users. And personas is one thing, use cases could be another thing, user journeys could be another thing. I think there's some different angles you can take.
Yeah. Just as you said, I really want to be careful not to limit how people think about stuff, because at the end of the day, we want to teach them how to think and not like provide baked-in solutions. And we don't want all of the people to design stuff in the same way. So it needs to be done from an angle that it actually inspires people and helps them, kicks things off, and then later on they can explore and adjust more tightly to the personas that they have, or to their target audience, I guess. So I will try to look from that angle, and maybe it would be a little bit better if I did perhaps a PR or something in Figma, maybe, so that I can, explain it a little bit better on what I'm actually proposing here. But as you said, it's minor stuff, not really like lightning focused. So it's fine if we want to, do it later on, or just, added it to the milestones so that we don't forget about it.
And we should test all this stuff. If we start a project or collaboration helps some project, we should think about these different techniques and try to use them, and then refine this page again. And I'm sure different techniques resonate differently with different teams at different stages.
Yeah, makes sense. Agreed.
Just on the topic of Patricia's research, I think there's like a opportunity to integrate a lot of the recommendations section within her research, like in certain sections of the guide. If you wanted to kind of look at that as well, Pav, like, for example, there's like the whole transactions confirmation uncertainties part of her research that kind of talks about how transaction fees are uncertain, and there's quite a lot of like good, I guess, quotes, and you could paraphrase things and reference her research in, like, say, for example, the funding a wallet or the receiving Bitcoin. Like if you're opening a payment channel, people may have to wait if they're not using some kind of like unconfirmed LSP type service. So you could kind of like throw some content in there, as well as like stuff around fee fluctuation, which could be integrated in certain areas. But it's just something else to, I guess, think about.
Yeah, good point, Bosch. Yeah, I will look into it. I haven't like dug very deep into the research itself, but I definitely will. Like, I was just started with personas, but yeah, I will definitely look into adding those recommendations, and maybe it can also be like a good point, as you mentioned, the confirmation thing, and then maybe it can be a good introduction for Lightning part, and why Lightning solves that, and why people should maybe use that instead. So it can be probably integrated across multiple sections that we have.
Yep. Okay, cool. And then the other thing in this milestone are all of the new pages. Bosch, I already saw you added comments to some of those issues. But before we dive into individual pages, I think we should talk about the section as a whole, because right now it's just so, transaction privacy, coin selection, it's all on-chain stuff. Units and symbols, you could argue that should go somewhere else. And then we have the whole LSP, and with Lightning, we have regular invoices and LNURL and key sense and other things going on. So this really seems like it needs a ton of changes, this whole section. Have you had a chance to review? And Johns, I know you love Lightning, and I know you love all the LNURL and all of these different things. And LB, what do you think of this section?
Oh yeah, I'm excited the Lightning stuff is coming into it now. So gonna need some work for sure. But yeah. Let's see. I don't know. For the LN URL stuff, I'm not sure how we're gonna incorporate it. Maybe we do some okay, what's a receive flow with an LN URL, for instance, and what's the pay flow with it, like sending Bitcoin flow. Well, withdraw is the receive, but for those you're scanning, and for both flows you're scanning a QR code. I did propose like one page about QR and scanning and stuff like that, a bunch of research for this. But then there's also like these other contexts with like link address, as you said, like that one is going to be a little tricky because it's going to need a backend and it's maybe not a service that you're interacting with, or like you're most likely going to be paying an individual who has a Lightning address because that's where the power is, right? Human readable, unique names for other Bitcoin users. And for that one, yeah, how do necessarily yet show how to create this address, right? Unless you have a web server running. So I'm not sure how we're going to incorporate that one in there.
Yeah, so I think if we work from the technology up, it's kind of tricky. If we work from the ideal user experience, we'll just pretend like this is the best, most amazing advanced wallet. It supports everything, and all the user needs to do is either scan a QR code or enter some type of identifier. And that identifier could be a Lightning address, it could be a node ID, it could be a Lightning invoice. They just enter something, right? And the wallet will figure it out, and it magically does it all, and then transaction happens. So we could start from different approaches there, and then just outline, well, okay, your wallet doesn't support this or it doesn't support that, then how do you handle that one?
So we're not dealing with the onboarding of those things then?
We can. I'm just saying we can take different approaches on this. And for me personally, I've actually found it pretty hard to start with the technology because it just becomes so intertwined and complicated to sort through and arrive with a good solution. How does everyone else feel?
I agree. I agree, Christoph. Like, I don't think we should go into detail on all the different Lightning kind of invoice serving methods. That's kind of what I like to term things like LN URL Pay, LN Lightning address, Bolt 12, Bolt 11. They're like kind of just different methods of serving the same kind of invoice. Like, I don't really think it comes into like a compatibility issue in the same context that it does when you, like, say, for example, trying to send a SegWit Batch32 to a legacy. That's kind of an incompatibility issue. But there is a bit of a spanner in the works just recently with that LND update with the AMP invoices, because I think that's a different formatted invoice, so that you can look at that similar to, say, having like a legacy address and a SegWit address, whereas like there's going to be definitely some different kind of UI design interfaces when dealing with those. But when it comes to dealing with the different serving methods, I think we should just deal with what the users deal with, which they just pick up their phone, scan. It doesn't matter if it's a Bolt 12, Bolt 11, LN URL Pay, whatever, Lightning address. It's still essentially just paying an invoice. There might be some differences with using a Lightning address, which are probably a bit more user-friendly, and I think we should focus on that a little bit more and maybe get into stuff to do with contacts, but we can talk about that later. But yeah, definitely with the AMP invoices with LND now, I think that's going to throw a bit of spanner in the works on the design side.
There was an issue talking about error states and stuff like that as well. So we're gonna have to probably also talk about those errors in a generic way instead of like specific errors also.
Yeah, definitely.
But see, actually, I'm kind of curious about this one. I'm wondering if for us as a group to start, it's easier if we kind of simplify things and then we add the complexity, because it might be the case that, well, once we have outlined or described the general way to deal with errors, then we're all kind of really deep into the weeds, and somehow we find ways to be more specific about certain errors. that we just cannot see yet, or that that we have to work towards. So I'm not sure. Could be.
Yeah, I guess one example of that can be, as Bosch already mentioned, and I think Jones did, contacts. So we start with, do we really want people to have contacts, and what problems does it solve? And then we can go up, what powers it? Why is it better to have like LN URL address as a contact, and implementation, and it is actually like cross-compatible no matter implementation and no matter the application, which we previously couldn't have done. Like if the contacts were built, and maybe Jones can correct me on this one, but earlier if you build contacts, you are locked in simply in a single application. Well, now if you build contacts, it's like compatible across multiple wallets that have it. There is a standard for it, and it allows people to really smoothly send payments from one to another. So maybe that kind of approach. I'm not sure.
You're speaking about specifically with Lightning address?
Yeah. What earlier we had, like, I remember that you were talking about having contacts, and sending Bitcoin to your contacts, and how does that work? And I don't think that earlier that was possible within a single across multiple applications, whereas now with Lightning address it is possible. So so.
Yeah, and I mean, like when I was researching it, it was always based on like what are the different kind of identifiers someone can have, and like what's possible for a wallet to support. I guess now we have this one that wallets can support, right? Or that the one that's popular and like kind of like it's for Lightning specifically that's gotten kind of popular. That doesn't depend on the implementation as well, because Lightning address you could have like C Lightning or async or LND. So whereby like for example key send you just needed like the node pub key or whatever, but like not all implementations supported it because it was like on the protocol and it's not like spec'd out. So yeah, definitely we're seeing, and of course now like a lot more of the applications have LN URL support. The issue with I did notice that we're talking about like like what's the user flow of these things, right? Like how did it fit into the flow, the perfect user flow, and yeah, and how do we fit like the tech into that user flow? I agree with that part. Part of that user flow for Lightning address is being able to like acquire a Lightning address, and that's the unknown part that the guide is not going to support, whether it's an onboarding or something like that. The perfect user flow would be inside of the mobile application. Someone like during onboarding, you're able to register Lightning address, and then when you go to receive funds, you send your Lightning address to someone, and then boom, you receive funds. Same thing for like when you're sending Bitcoin. We're gonna have a bit of a gap, and then we're just gonna assume that at some point someone's going to have a Lightning address. So that's kind of like what I was talking about, the disconnect. But you're definitely right. It's more Lightning address is a lot more ubiquitous now, except people don't know how to get one.
Yeah. Who has one here?
I got
I
one.
do.
Yeah, I got
Just
one.
deploy BTC Pay server and
Yeah.
or use Blix wallet. I think does Blix provide already this for users? Like, why couldn't a wallet just simply provide this for their users? And it can communicate it in the context of a contact. Like, why you don't even have to call it Lightning address? It can just be, contact
address.
or donation address or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I like how Blix integrated in the context of contact. Like, I just add a bunch of contacts from and it works across multiple applications. No matter which wallet I use, it will always.
I think
Exactly.
Zebedee. Doesn't Zebedee provide you one by default?
Yeah, they
Zebedee
do.
has one as well. Yeah.
Hmm.
The
I think
problem.
Loose will be soon as well. Just saying.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The problem here, like it's Wait, did you say Breeze?
Blixt, I think is
Blixt.
what Bosch said.
Okay. So the problem is the node needs to be online, right? And on a mobile node, non-custodial node, you're going to have to, if someone, okay, you need to be online, the node needs to be online, and you need to have an HTTP server. Those are the two things, basically. And neither of those are completely possible on mobile environments. So you're gonna have to rely on like some external thing. So most,
This is Steven here. Sorry I'm late. But yeah, the thing that's not entirely clear to me with Lightning Address is exactly how the user retains control over that address. It seems like you're always like similar to an email address. Your Lightning address needs to be hosted by some service, and so it seems like that needs to be taken into consideration too. That's kind of like another service provider that the user has to interact with.
Yeah, I was actually going to, that Lightning Services page that I put up the PR for, I was actually going to put Lightning Address in there because I think like Lightning Address essentially is a service, and I think if you're getting a Lightning Address in a wallet, you should, like, if they're going to offer it, it should be probably part of a wallet. If you're just outsourcing it and going to like a third-party random source, like, there's a good chance that they could disappear and your like Lightning addresses be useless.
And we don't have to solve all of this stuff here in this call. It would be amazing if we could. It'd be super cool. Guide done. But I think the approach is kind of important. And maybe the easiest way is to say, well, what do people do? People want to send, they want to request, they want to receive, they're at the store, they scan an invoice, all these different things. And then they want to share some simple identifier with someone else so that other entity, person, store, whatever can send them something. And then we just come up with UI and then figure out how we can best match the technology against it. And then the problems will be very visible very quickly, and we'll see what we can do there. And in some ways, Blixt and Breeze and we Phoenix, we have lots of great examples that have already that have already built a lot of this stuff. We kind of need to just bring it under one hood, ideally.
Well, what do you guys think about having a page within this payment section on contacts, and we can kind of like explore having contacts in the context of like a Lightning address? You could also save a contact as like any kind of static invoice, like an AMP invoice, a bulk 12 offer, a LN Euro Pay, without using a Lightning address. We could kind of like go into details there, and like it might be, there's not many wallets that have a contacts form like that. I don't think there's any wallets actually, any Lightning wallets, but we could kind of maybe mock something up and be like, this is what it would probably look like. I don't know.
There you go. Lightning address.
Yeah, I mean, a payment section seems like a reasonable default for where that page would go.
Because I talked with Johns a while ago, because I showed you that J card thing. Hey, Johns, it's like the V card, but using the JSON format. And you could just share, like, I don't know, it would have to be like on a technical level for people to kind of start integrating that format and sharing it amongst different wallets. But if you had a J card format, you could have just say like my contact Bosch, and I share it with you. You don't have to know if it's a Lightning address. I could just give you a Lightning address, or it could be a bulk 12 offer, or it could be a AMP invoice. But I just give you like a Bosch contact. You just save it into your thing using this J card format, load it into your wallet. Don't ever have to even look at whether it's a bulk 12 offer, an AMP invoice, or a Lightning address. And then you just have a contacts list, and you just click, yep, I'm going to pay Bosch. And behind the scenes, Bosch has chosen he wants to get paid in like a certain method, but that isn't really relevant to the user. It's essentially still just paying an invoice at the end of the day. But all they need to deal with is just like Bosch, their contact. And then the J card kind of says what way they want to get paid. But
exactly. You just cut off there, Bosch.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was pretty much all I was saying. But yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like now we start seeing some of these things that we've been writing about interacting with one another. For example, we had a discussion. I had a discussion last week with Stephen about these backups, cloud backups, and you know, a lot of focus is on like using it for private keys, and we know they also are being used for channel state. But then we have like these additional metadatas that are also, yeah, this additional metadata that also needs to be backed up, like these contact cards or, you know, so, and like addresses and payment requests and labels and whatever else. So that's also an area that we might want to look to update as part of this payment thing because it's now producing more metadata.
Yeah, I still think this is the tricky approach that we will pick a certain cool tech that's now cool and try to implement it within guide instead of actually looking at the ideal user flow that we want. And I think, Christoph, to get back to the point you did mention that we already have like several wallets and their flows and their how they work and how their UI is structured. So we can probably look at those already and try to pick ideal experience that we consider is good for either receiving or sending, and maybe then we can try to see what those wallets are using and try to explain tech behind it. Because yeah, I think if we really like stick to Vault 12 or even to Lightning address and try to see how to integrate it within the guide, maybe it's a tricky approach. I'm not sure, but I do think we need to structure this one in context of user flow in order to have like good experience. So yeah,
I would agree. I would agree with that, Pavlinix. I've made some remarks on a couple of issues and PRs over the past month or so. Basically, just to the effect of that, I don't think we should make engineering recommendations in the guide. A lot of the protocols and specs we have right now today are really good, but some of these things didn't exist, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and who knows, what developers are going to come up with in the next 2 years. And so I guess I kind of feel that we should just try and focus our efforts on, what is the best experience for the user. And I mean, I'm not saying we should never mention technology, never mention protocols, things like that, but use them more as like, well, this is an example of something, a protocol that you might be able to use to help you achieve this, but not like dictating that, like, oh, you absolutely should use this protocol, because I feel like the people, the developers may be able to, answer those questions a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. Like kind of what I was talking before about like that J card, we could just kind of like show the flow of how like sharing a contact between wallet applications would look, how like it would work, not on a technical level, but just how like interface level. And then we could be like, yeah, like this could be achieved by using like, this J card format or a V card format or something completely new, whatever developers work on. But at the end of the day, contacts should essentially on the UX side function like this. I think we could kind of do that without 100% knowing what's going to happen on the technical side. Like contact is something that's pretty concrete in like a lot of technologies these days and how they kind of work.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Cool. We have another 10 minutes left here to the hour. Should we assign or pick pages, or I assume we're going to add some new pages here probably, or should we just start with what we have?
I don't know. To me, it seems that the only solution is for us to take a week and use Bitcoin Wallet UI Kit and design perfect experience that we want for both sending and receiving each one of us, and then come back and see how we can structure this section. Because if we keep like adding things, I do see payments as like being the meat of the Lightning section, and if we approach it from the perspective of just changing existing content, I don't know, we'll probably end up with having structural issues again, and not, I don't know. I just don't see how we can integrate this without restructuring it so that it talks about the flow, like, okay, you're now sending, you're receiving, managing, or whatever. So it's hard that we can integrate this into existing structure. Is all I'm saying. So without the restructure, I'm not sure how we will be able to implement this. So I don't know. Are there any other thoughts, or am I
mean,
picking the hardest approach?
I mean,
well, I mean,
go
at
ahead,
the
John.
core, at the core, it's still sending, receiving, right? And then there's some foundational stuff that need to be understood, like transaction structure, privacy, units and symbols, invoices, right? So like just at the very core, like yeah, it's, within sending, there are some specific technologies that we may or may not want to get into or whatever. But yeah, like receiving Bitcoin, like inputting additional payment details, like that's pretty much like standard, right? Um, so like the details, like what Christoph has on the screen here is like message label, etc. Maybe we want to call them differently, but at the end of the day, like what's there is already a flow, right? So I don't know, perhaps we can just like start looking at that first and seeing like what on those pages need to get updated to have Lightning, what additional foundational pages you need to have, and then we can also then look at like, okay, what are the more bleeding edge stuff that we're not seeing in wallets now that we would like to see, and like have that in there. I think things for like if we want to include stuff like LNURL, Lightning address, those are definitely a lot more technical related stuff. They're things that we haven't actually figured out the UX for anyway, right? The only from like yeah, the only context that I would be able to recommend in a generic format would be a locally stored contact, and Lightning address would be one of those identifiers. The the file format to share that, I'm not sure. People are going, but as Steven says, the developers are gonna end up like choosing something, maybe something that's the same or better than Jcard or whatever. But yeah, we have like we have like an outline of like send and receive there already. We just need to figure out like what are the basic parts of Lightning that needs to be incorporated in there, and what are the foundational pages. We also have to figure out what managing funds mean with this Bitcoin and Lightning part, because on this transactions page, we talk, transactions is also missing a bunch of stuff, but on the transaction, we give like things about life cycle and all that. And we need to have something similar for, uh, routing routing and payment channel life cycle, right? Or payment channel life cycle, I guess. So yeah, I think we can do the imaginative thing that's like really bleeding edge, but there's so much that is still unsolved there. Yeah.
I think I think just taking assigning pages and just having each person update the existing page for Lightning is a good start. Just so that we all have something assigned and ready to work on. But we should keep an open mind as we do this, that we should look for opportunities to add new sub pages and restructure things as we do that. Because I mean, yeah, the basic framework of sending and receiving Bitcoin is here, but we I do think there's going to be some trickier things, as you pointed out, with channels and stuff like that, John's. And then just on the sending Bitcoin page, I've probably interacted with 3 or 4 different ways of sending Bitcoin in El Salvador. So I think that those sections particularly are going to be trickier and will need to be expanded a little bit.
Yeah, other ways than scanning an invoice or copying and pasting on? Which other ways?
Yeah, I mean, this whole like signs hanging everywhere in Ozante is really interesting approach. I'm not sure if it's the best approach, but it's an approach people are using, and so I want to at least take time to kind of meditate on it and discuss it.
Yeah. That one is something I think we should be talking about with the community here as well. Because yeah, this is like it was so annoying to see this kind of UX. I don't even think it should exist. To be honest, it's the most ridiculous one. And just for reference for everyone, it's a sign that you scan that takes you to a web page with a QR code on it that you copy.
I heard
Then
about those.
yeah, it's completely ridiculous.
But what it does is it is silly, but it's silly from your point of view. But from the point of view of the person behind the counter, it makes their job easier. So I think that
No, I understand the intention.
yeah.
I understand the intention. I understand
Yeah,
the intention. 100%.
Anyways, we're going off a separate rabbit hole, but then with that discussion, but we should definitely discuss it. My only point with that is just that I think that there's going to be there's going to be complexity on the payments the sending Bitcoin page. That's all I'm saying. Just
Ultimately,
just looking over this, Alexa was definitely way ahead of her time. She doesn't even need to update that image. Lightning's already in there, so awesome job there. And I feel like this transactions overview page, the coin selection page, transaction privacy page, I almost want to make duplicates of those and put them in some, like maybe under savings account, which is about on-chain stuff. Just put them somewhere so we don't overwrite them, and then that previous version is lost, but it's actually perfectly valid for an on-chain wallet.
For a savings wallet, you mean?
Well, for any wallet that's on-chain.
Yeah.
Which could be a savings, could be some multi-sig investment management, revolt, all kinds of other things. Because if we override it, then it's kind of gone in a way. But I don't think it has to be.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a case study. I'm sorry, it's not a case study. It's not like a user flow case study. It's like it's technical information that helps the designer understand why things are the way they are in Bitcoin. So it's kind of like it's applicable to any on-chain thing, but it doesn't necessarily demonstrate a user flow. So maybe it does belong somewhere else in the guide.
Yes, so it's one of those foundational pages that I think the title of it before was transaction structure and lifecycle, and together with transaction privacy, units and symbols, and I guess the additions would be things relating to payment channel lifecycle and perhaps something dealing with routing. I think those supersede payments and are more in a kind of like we don't have a foundation section now, but it's more kind of like akin to that.
Kind of a how it works type of.
Exactly how it works.
Section,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So because that having that info, we talk about what do you call it? Parts of these user flows at various points in the different sections, but we only talk about or confirmations or something like that. We talk about it in different areas, but we only really get into it on the payment section,
Christoph, you mentioned the restructure, and you mentioned us having technology section. Maybe once we do that restructure, we can actually pull this kind of content into those sections where we do explain how does the technology behind it works. Would it make sense to move it there? But I do agree that we have to preserve all of this content. Even in the funding a wallet page, there was some content that we rewrite it for the on-chain things, but it might still be valid. So we need to find a way where to put it.
Yeah, here in this daily spending, the way I thought about it, or at some point when I looked at case studies, so there's the use case is, why is this product valid? What it's generally going to be used for. Then the private key scheme, it's kind of how it works under the hood. And then this prototype is how to design what a product for this use case using this technology could look like, would be a good solution there. And so in that sense, the just like private key scheme is kind of how it works under the hood, which is of course important for designers and developers. And so maybe those transaction privacy or transactions here and coin selection, maybe those go more kind of under the hood in that how it works section.
Mm.
And then we have the other one, which like, what does a UI look like for this, for that specific use case using this technique or technology?
Yeah, I like that approach. Like having like a chapter called like maybe foundations or something that has like a transactions overview, like a Lightning overview for like payments, similar to the transactions overview page, but in Lightning context. You could even maybe put the private key management chapter within that chapter, because it's kind of like all the foundational content that is relevant to the design, like flow pages, like the payments and onboarding, but isn't exactly the same. But
Hey, Daniel.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Sorry it took so long. But I was listening in pretty much the whole time, so I've followed along.
Not to sound like a kind of like a, I don't know, whatever, but I posted a link to a structure that I've in section, and a lot of the stuff that we're kind of discussing is like it perhaps not communicated in the best way, but I did start some work on this. So if we can like at least take some time to go over it and give comments and say why it's not valid for this for this update, or see like what parts of it we could take out, because work has been done on there. So I would just please like you to have a look at it in the context of adding this Lightning content, because yeah, some of the ideas that are coming up here, I've tried to express it. It's probably definitely not the thing that we're going to be going with, but at least it gives us some base to start from to have those discussions.
Awesome. And you're referring to the bolt.fun guide invoices link?
No. I sent it in core, not the thing. Sorry.
Okay.
This is the payments table of contents. So things like addresses, which is now a page under like because it's one of those foundational stuff as well. Privacy, missing symbols. There's no page currently talking about the pull and push payments, but that was kind of important, especially with things like LN URL that it seems that people want to talk about. The pull and push payment page, describing what that means is kind of important in that context. Even for merchants which are doing refunds, it's also important there. Or someone who wants to do subscription, like if you want to design something based on subscriptions, you would need to help someone understand what pull and push payments are in the land of Bitcoin. Yeah, so I try to outline as much of the foundations content, and then it's the user flow content of like, how do you restore a wallet? What's the like coming to the balance and then requesting the payment, sending the payment, and the processes of receiving and managing funds, and then some security stuff. Security is relevant to payments. The reason why is because we've seen here a lot of Bitcoiners are kind of like they've been spending their funds quite a bit, and then now they're requesting like the balance not to be shown as big, right? So that's why the hide balances page was written up initially, and well, the decoy accounts is a bit more exotic of a thing that we don't really see as much, but maybe we can consider it given any new information we have now.
Cool, awesome. And those are not pages. They look like links, but they're not deep links.
Yes,
It's more about the structure, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's more about the structure. Yeah.
Yeah, something you brought up. I was wondering if in this initial revision we should even cover things like scheduled payments. And so I'd love to get that in at some point, but now may or may not be the right time for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I'm
allowances.
looking at allowances. Yeah, exactly. It's like when you play, and the design isn't really the best example, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear.
I say the only application I know that really has such kind of mechanism is Albi, and the design isn't really perfect. So I think we would need more reference points from other applications and it being more thought through, or at least even more used.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Now we've dug up a million things. So assign pages and work through it and see what happens. YOLO.
Yeah. I volunteered to do the like transactions page, like assuming that page is going to be about like channels and how to handle the UX around channels and all that kind of stuff.
How is transaction going to be a channels page?
I thought that's what you suggested, Johns. I may have misunderstood. I thought that you were
Or do you
saying
need another
that
page for payment channels?
could be. I think we need a page that discusses the UX of opening and closing payment channels. So that may be more than we're attempting to discuss. Sorry, Christoph. But yeah, I'll take one of these pages.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that transactions basically just says, okay, we in that, on chain, you have an address, you send stuff to it. Lightning's different. You have an invoice, and it just works one way. And because it works one way, there are certain UX problems, and that's why we have stuff like URL and other things, and then there are AMP and other things that are happening to cover up for these. And that would be kind of then you kind of understand how these payments work under the hood. So really just about invoices and the additional tech on top of that.
Yeah, I'll let
That
some
could be one
comments on that.
approach.
The issue for that, Stephen. Like, probably best to like what Christoph was saying before, like maybe move the transactions overview, the content that's there currently, to another section that we can decide on later, and then rework this page to being like a Lightning Network payments overview that kind of covers like transaction gets a channel gets open, covers the life cycle of a payment channel, maybe overview of like routing, maybe
Routing
some stuff
errors.
around, maybe some stuff around HTLCs. I don't know how technical we want to get in this section. Like, I think it's better to leave technical stuff to like a more like foundations chapter. But I left some comments on the issue if you wanted to read it.
Well, Stephen and I are super experts on that because we participated in the Lightning book reading group. So we can cover it all. Right, Stephen?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Experts, totally.
Exactly.
I watched all the recordings.
Awesome.
So you're an expert too, then. But yeah, I can take the transactions page, whatever ends up happening to it. Or if you want me to take another page, I can do that too.
I'll do the receivings page because I think it overlaps with my funding or wallet, so it's probably be a bit easier.
But if we get rid of coin selection, do we need to add a channel management? Anything about related to channels, or just say, well, your Lightning server does it for you. There you go.
I mean, if we just want to assume that Lightning is going to be abstracted in the future and that, all Lightning, no one will ever have to think about channels, then sure. What I'm seeing, though, is that a lot of these wallets, they are exposing users to channels, though. Like Blixt and Phoenix and Breeze, they all expose users to the channels, and for better or for worse. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Maybe, but it's they do it in clever ways. They try to, like, oh, you'll open your channel on your first payment, or oh, we'll charge you this much of a fee for it, or whatever. So, I'm not saying I want users to understand the technical complexity of it, but what I'm seeing in the world is that a lot of wallets are kind of making you like have to, at least understand the fees associated with your channels. So, I don't know. It seems like it would be worth doing some work in that area, some brainstorm. I have some ideas that aren't fully formed about how to make that process a little easier, maybe even fun. But maybe that might be wishful thinking. But I think it would just be an idea worth exploring. I don't know, worth committing. That's another story.
Okay, cool. Can you self-assign on that page, or should I assign things to people?
I'm
already see
assigning people
things.
already. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Yeah, I'm a pleb. I can't assign.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would really like to pay really close attention to all of this stuff, and any UI, UX, any type of decisions, just merge them in the Bitcoin UI kit as we go along. So that could be a really good coherent UI for everything
Yeah,
that we
will do.
decide and come up with.
That'd be great.
Yeah, units and symbols, I don't think it needs anything. I mean, I revised that one, or we revised that one recently, and it talks about sats already being appropriate for Lightning.
We could take this opportunity to have an argument about the sat symbol again.
Oh yeah. There's currently an issue in the Bitcoin icon set repo where somebody is an effort exists to include more different sats concept into the icon set. So products can choose.
Yeah. I can do an update to the transaction privacy page. Except we might need a bit of a title change, but future proofing it, the slug is still called it's just called privacy. So
what would you cover in there?
I suggested to call it payment, just like payments privacy.
Bitcoin privacy. There is like things like, for example, when you're handing out your node private key, your node ID, in the case of like what do you call it, a key send or something, or like within an invoice, there is there is information about your node in there, and there is some like network level stuff, like not in the transport layer, but in actually like the routing layer for privacy, for Lightning Network. Yeah.
I shared a bunch of links on the issue as well that cover a whole lot of stuff about privacy and Lightning. There's a lot of stuff you could cover if you wanted to.
Yeah, I guess the question is like how deep we want to go in there, and like I would probably be looking at things of like what areas an application might want to surface to a user, like with regards to those privacy stuff, like maybe I don't know. Can't think of any right now, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, then we have sending. That one seems fun. I can do it.
Oh.
If unless somebody else wants to do it, I'll just say you enter address, type in an amount, press send. It worked.
Boom.
Well, what about the experiences where wallets unify payments, sending and receiving through just simply scanning it like Breeze does, so that they have like this middle button, which ideally should just be one. Sending and receiving is called scanning. So I don't think it will be that simple.
Well, they're wrong. It is simple. Now, of course, you have, you know, right, you have a lot of detail in this thing. And Bosch, something that we talked about recently, and that relates to the privacy stuff, is that where, you know, you open the app, just like Cash App or Snapchat or so, you don't go to a list of all the things that you're dealing with your home screen. You go straight into an action where you instantly go. You could go to the QR code scan screen. You could go to the numerical input right when you open the app. So you launch people, and then you don't reveal the balance. You allow people to more quickly go into an action. There are all kinds of details to go through. And I spent some time already with, what am I talking about? Sending. Okay, sending here. Thinking through some of this stuff. Can just flesh it out further. But yeah, it'd be cool to get some support there.
Definitely
with
talk
all
about
of the
errors,
technical things.
all the error states. Probably that's where you'd want to talk about that as well when sending.
Some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying reading Steven's blog post from El Salvador, and it seems to be a lot of errors in sending there. And maybe something to draw some inspiration from, like common errors or something like that.
What's the most common error you found sending payments over there, Stephen?
I have to say probably it's probably Chivo specifically, but I'm not trying to just throw them under the bus. It's more specifically what it is there's something with their it's a custodial wallet, which is probably a good choice for people who are very new to Bitcoin. But it typically what happens, the most common error is you, first off, if you want to send a Lightning payment, you have to really teach people how to get to a Lightning payment. It's really hidden. So getting to the Lightning invoice in the app is very difficult. But more importantly, what happens is if you take a non-custodial Bitcoin wallet and you send a Lightning payment to Chivo, the payment will show up confirmed in your app, but on the Chivo app, it will not confirm for maybe 5 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe more. It's very bad. So it's a very bad error because if you understand Bitcoin on a technical level, then you understand that Lightning payments are atomic and that they either succeed or they fail. So you feel confident that the payment was a success because your phone says it worked, right? But on the recipient's phone or their POS terminal or whatever, the payment doesn't appear, and they may not receive it for an hour. And at that point, you have to choose, like, how much money is at stake here? Do I want to simply pay them in cash, knowing that they're essentially going to be paid twice, just to make them feel better about it? Or are you going to try and argue about it and say no, trust me, you're gonna see the payment in your Chivo? So it's a very, very awkward situation. That's probably, I would say, the most common error.
But that does not seem like a Lightning error itself. That
Correct.
seems more like an infrastructure Chivo
Correct.
problem.
Absolutely.
Technology provider issue.
Absolutely. That is the number one error. So yeah, I'm just saying, if you just mean with Bitcoin and Lightning payments, just in general, that's the number one error. That isn't a non-custodial thing. It's not something we can fix necessarily from an open source perspective. All we can do is try and document what we're seeing and communicate that to Chivo, and hopefully they can resolve those bugs. In terms of non-custodial errors, I'd say, if you run a node like me, then probably a common error you run into is just difficulty finding a path. Another error might be, just depending on the amount you're sending. Another error might be just Tor being very slow. So those are examples of non-custodial errors, but the custodial errors are definitely, in terms of quantity, those are the most frequent errors.
What are your thoughts on? Sorry, I'll just do a quick follow-up question. What are your thoughts on, on-chain versus Lightning? That's both on the non-custodial side, but it's still, you have to kind of choose a path. It seems in most applications. What are your thoughts on the kind of combined QR code option? Right? Could that be something we should be pushing more? As in, like, if you're showing a QR code, it should be this joint one, by default, and you should try Lightning first. And if that doesn't work, it should default to on-chain.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, actually. I mean, just for like tomorrow, if I were to say, hey, Chivo, what pull request can you do tomorrow that will have the most impact? I would say, in addition to fixing those bugs, I would say make Lightning the default. I don't understand why on-chain is the default for like a Dollar City or a Star, or like a small coffee shop. But having said that, yeah, there may be situations where depending on the fees, like if someone's buying a really large grocery bill or something, maybe in that one situation on-chain's better. Or so I think if the engineers can come up with some kind of spec for how you combine like a Lightning invoice and an on-chain address into a single QR code, and the wallet kind of makes a decision about which one is the most efficient, I think that would be fantastic.
This already exists. This already exists. It's possible, but it also needs to be implemented on a wallet level. So if wallet does not support it, then it doesn't work. But the way it works is that you would scan it, and then the wallet would be prompted. Like, it's on the wallet to send a prompt to users. How would you like to pay? So it's not automatic. So there is probably some things that we do have, like in BTC Pay server this. That's why I just wanted to mention. So a wallet would display to user, how would you like to pay, or would you like Lightning?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really solve the automation part, but maybe that's something we can also propose at least.
Since we're touching both the sending and receiving page in this sprint, maybe we should try and combine those two strands, because you need both sides. Right?
Yeah, from a technological, from a development point of view, is it possible to set like a threshold so that if someone wants to pay using Lightning up to a certain amount, that it would automatically pick up the Lightning one?
Yeah, if the code is unified, then the wallet can have some logic to default to whichever payment method that the user wants, or that that they configure such kind of like policies for. It is possible, but it would require the either a fallback address in the BIP 11 or a bolt 11, or a Lightning parameter in BIP 21, which already exists, and as Pav said, it's already been in BTC Pay server and stuff. The one thing I would add is that I think this would be a great addition for the receiving Bitcoin page, but we also may want to state that state something about the QR density and how that affects scanning. That's super important.
Yeah, I heard there were some problems. Or I read that somewhere. Small QR codes, Android phones.
No.
Right.
And sorry, and for receiving, I think we should even pay more attention to like the size of the QR code. I don't know what we have currently, like in the mockups, but I think it's best to like try to make it take over the whole page, because people have different like screen sizes and stuff, and even like small screens, like the QR is like, if it has any padding around, it may be fine on a large screen sometimes, but like definitely on those smaller screens now it's even smaller. Yeah, and especially in those merchant contexts when it's like you may not be as close to the person that you're paying and stuff, because it's like on a device behind the counter or something.
One thing.
I haven't really seen like really any wallets implement this besides Blix. Kind of, you can activate it in the settings, but it's waiting for like graphs to sync, which increases success chance of your payments quite a bit. I know in like Zeus, like when you scan an invoice, you can get like a probability. I don't know what heuristics they use based on the success chance that payment's going to go through. I know if you let the graph sync for longer, which can be a problem on mobile devices, especially ones that are pretty low end, it will increase the chances. but there could be like, say you're in like El Salvador and you scan a QR code and it has like a probability of like 80%, maybe it automatically like just syncs for a little bit before it lets you send a payment. So like it syncs the graph a little bit more, so it gets the probability to a certain threshold, maybe 98%. So it's like, pretty much going to go through before it sends the payment, so it gets a bigger graph. But then you also got to factor in, like, if it's taking a lot longer to find a graph, there's probably more hops, and that probably means more fees, and then you have to kind of communicate that as well to users. But like that's just another option rather than opting for on-chain. There could be some kind of more graph sync related thing. And another thing to consider as well when you're talking about that is like trampoline nodes and payments, which I think async's the only Lightning Network implementation that uses trampoline nodes, but essentially you can outsource the graph node sync to like a more powerful node that then gives you that data, so you can find an optimal payment path a lot faster. And I found I get pretty successful most of the time using Phoenix, and maybe it's to do with the trampoline nodes, but I think that's something also just to think about when we're considering this kind of stuff.
And it's just in the opposite direction of that one from the technical side is I'm wondering if there's a lot more stuff to explore in what people actually want to do with this. I have to think back of something we talked about in the first Twitter Space community call, which was when Steve brought up, well, I want to make a payment in an app on my phone. I want to pay it with this other app on my phone. So I have a Lightning self-custodial Lightning wallet on my phone, and I want to make a payment in this other app. What does that interaction look like? So I'm wondering if there are more things that people want to do just on the very front end level, on the application level, across application interactions, that we may also need to think about and try to consider. Like if, let's say, I want to buy something on Amazon, does a little panel show up that somehow my Lightning wallet serves, and I press OK, and it somehow does it behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think like until those kind of interactions become kind of like solidified, where we know, like we understand like the UX and like what problems they can have and stuff, those kind of things are areas of case studies that we could be working on. And I think you've been talking about like giving some more life to the case studies. That's an exact area in which we can kind of like demonstrate those things. I think for the payments or like sending and receive and stuff like that, we should keep with like a bit more conservative. If anyone knows, it's probably not my style, but but just based on like the template that we've kind of laid out so far, it's kind of like we have been conservative with it. So it seems to be like the thing to follow, because then it means that we could get a bit more exotic in other areas, and then I think that raises a whole bunch of other work that we might have to do. And what I mean by like conservative is that like we look at like what other things that's possible now in applications that exist, and let's try to generalize those into some kind of patterns that we can talk about with people. And of course, in some of those areas, we may have to like make some improvements, like we did so far, but it's not like staring too much off the path of like what's in the current UX.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and some of it we
I agree.
might not be able to figure out right now until we spend more time on it. The new things come along. Okay, we're at an hour and a half. So we're about halfway through the session. What would you like to talk about next? Nothing. Okay. Okay, cool. We have some unassigned pages: coin selection, landing page, units and symbols, which I don't think needs anything. Anybody else want to do anything? Daniel, would you like to do anything particular? Alexa?
Is the coin selection page really relevant if we're focusing primarily online? We can move it to another section. I don't think we should definitely get rid of it.
Maybe for now, it's a glossary subpage might be the best place for now. And then I would, after restructuring, if we have a more extensive on-chain wallet case study that do multi-sig or other things,
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a sub-page there, but right now I don't think we have a good place for it.
Which pages are still unclaimed? I'm looking at the Lightning progress overview issue, but I can't see it
Yeah,
there. Is there a better
what's
page?
here. Check the background or check the roadmap, which, yep,
I
Pavlik
sent
just
the
shared
link
it.
in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, great.
You always have the link ready. Yeah,
I'm a little sorry, go.
No, I was just going to make another stupid comment, but please go ahead.
I was just curious to know how we actually find this page within GitHub without the link. It wasn't really apparent to me.
Yeah, sorry, you weren't on a call when I explained. So this is like you go to Bitcoin Design Organization, and on an organization you click on the projects, and then there you choose projects beta, because this is still beta feature from GitHub, but
Gotcha.
hopefully they will have it soon added to maybe repository, because at this point it's impossible to have it on a repository level, just on the organization. So
I see it. Okay, that makes sense. Found it.
okay, awesome.
So coin selection is left. It's not one of my strong points, I must say. But if no one else is jumping on that, let me have a look.
I mean, you could also probably help me a lot with sending Bitcoin. It just,
Yeah.
it seems super intense.
I mean, coin selection is not a thing in Lightning, right? Correct?
No.
Not in that exact form, no. I mean,
So,
Well, I'd say that, I mean, it depends on, I don't want the user to have to worry about that stuff too much, but you might consider like which coins you're using when you're opening your channel
sure.
from a private.
Okay.
That's getting a little advanced though.
Yeah. How about you just assign me to this page and I will take a look and I'll keep that particular use case in mind. It seems like maybe it's the only relevant one, but I'll confirm.
Just
Yep,
on the
I
topic
assigned you.
quickly of what Stephen just said about like an advanced topic, would it be worth having something in the payment section around like some kind of like obviously the base foundation is a very user-friendly wallet, say akin to Phoenix or Breeze, but like even with Breeze behind the scenes, you can kind of go deep if you want and do channel management. Would there be opportunity to kind of explore that a little bit within this section? Not in great detail, but maybe just be like, look, these are some like progressive options for users that can be involved in the app, but they shouldn't be at the forefront. And maybe users can get to that point when they're more comfortable. I'm not sure if we want to kind of go there. That could get quite technical, but I know like Breeze does a pretty good job of still having technical stuff while still being a pretty user-friendly application. So I think it's important with Bitcoin to still have those options to not opt into the whole LSP, completely trusting third parties to manage everything. But I don't know if we want to kind of go there.
I agree with that one. It's always good to have like the option and to be able to opt in or out of the LSP. So, but maybe we can restructure the transaction page so that it talks about fund management or something like that. Because you send, you receive, and then you manage funds. You have like overview of transactions, and maybe there we can split things up into maybe pages so that they talk about channel management as well on the context of managing the funds. But I'm not sure if that would technically like make completely sense. Maybe John can chime in if where actually we may want to talk about channel management.
Yeah, well, we do have a page called Managing Funds, and I might have some content around it for like focused on stuff. What that means on, or at least what that meant on the kind of like the version that I proposed for like Lightning and on-chain was that it would have things relating to channel management in there, but on the UI level. Now, on the transactions overview page, I really don't think we should be incorporating like Lightning specific things in that page, to be honest, because a Bitcoin transaction is going to work the same thing, like same way no matter what. And one of those use cases is, but a use case for a transaction is a payment channel, and that is quite a lot of content that we could write up about how like payment channel structure and life cycle, about the 212 multi-sig part, about the like the delays, the time locks, etc. So I see that as kind of like either, yeah, like the part about the creation and life cycle and structure of a payment channel, separate from the channel management part. And for the channel management, we have managing funds. And for the payment channel stuff, I think it should be a new page.
Yeah, so again, separating out how it works with how users could interact with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with John's.
Yeah. So we have two how it works, transactions, the transaction itself, payment channel, which is more Lightning related, and which references the transactions page, and then for managing funds on like, yeah, how people interact with it, yeah, managing funds on there. And perhaps even in that managing funds, we could move coin selection in there, perhaps as well. It's a way of managing, like yeah, doing things with your money to label them or whatever else. But if we don't want it highlighted as much in sending.
Yeah.
How does it's November 22. How does everybody feel about this whole section and adding Lightning before with Christmas and New Year's coming up?
It's 23 where I am, but yeah.
Yeah, you live in the future, we know. Are we further ahead in your tomorrow with the section?
Yeah, I reckon we're doing pretty good. I reckon we should aim to get this payment section done before the new year. Just like a month.
Yeah, totally. And Bosch is living in the future compared to us, always.
You know, it's because it keeps cracking me up when I do a general ping in Slack. It asks me, do you really want to send a message to 2,000 people across 27 time zones? I do wonder where those extra 3 ones, if they're kind of past, future, and parallel universe, or something else exotic that people are zoning in from.
Yeah, I think
but yeah.
I wonder if we can actually almost wrap up Lightning in the guide by the end of the year. I mean, maybe there'll be some straddle pages, but it's looking good so far.
Yeah, seems like a reasonable goal. I think the magic will happen in 2022 when we do our restructure.
Yeah. By which? Oh, go ahead, Alexa.
Hey, since I'm gonna be I'm still tackling the onboarding. What is the landing page? I think I could take on the payments section. The landing page itself. Just help a bit with that. Try and tackle them both.
Okay.
I may have opened a PR for that already, but just welcome to go on there and change stuff. I just kind of reworded things a little bit because there's only like one paragraph, I think, on that page.
That one might actually be better if it's done after all the pages are revised.
Just so that there is an order to it or something of the sort.
No, just because we might not even know how it needs to change, because the overview pages reflects the content, right? And we're making a lot of changes in the content, but we'll have to see how they pan out. But yeah, that'd be awesome.
That I'm thinking about is I think I remember that this one was going to have the illustration that it's on the transactions page, because it was going to be kind of an overview on the transactions was different. So I'll be thinking on that one.
Another thing just to quickly add, I know we're talking about like adding new pages, and we said we're going to just redo the pages first and then think about adding pages, but I think a contacts page is pretty important to have, and I would happily do it with John's because we've been thinking about it a lot.
I'm going to be publishing a bunch of content around some of these abstractions as well. I'm still kind of got a bit delayed last week with all the events and stuff, but I'm almost done for contacts, payment requests, the unified one, wallet messaging, which talks about the sending data between devices or between applications, and then the other one is I think the transaction builder, which would allow things for like subscriptions. So yeah, there's going to be like some base for if anyone wants to kind of like use as reference, but no, these topics are quite close to me, so if we finally get in the guide, I'm also quite happy. But again, to be a bit more conservative, I don't know if we might want to, I don't know, just base it on things that are existing in the ecosystem already versus like more exotic approaches.
Could there be sort of like an experimental tag, like if you touch on something that isn't quite used by a lot of people, but that may be in the future? And are you thinking of just thinking of context, or are you thinking of a sort of an identity thing like the DIDs that I've been hearing about?
No. This is simply just context. Like a phone, like you have on your phone. Nothing to do with identity. Because that identity stuff, a bunch of people are trying to solve it as well, and there is no like standard solution either.
Hold on, there is. There's this group where you can go to an orb and it scans your eyeball.
Yeah,
They're coming for you.
I'm cool.
What's the last Pav? Sorry, I just read Pav's message in chat.
I guess the guidelines to Lightning Network saying payment confirmation that Steve opened, but I guess it's aligned to send page in a way, so maybe whoever is taking on send page can tackle those. I guess Daniel and Christoph are doing teamwork on that one.
Yeah. I think that just relates to that, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for sending iterative feedback would be very helpful, where we have several checkpoints to get everybody's input on that before trying to finalize anything. I think try to keep that one very iterative to my approach. Okay, cool. So we're at 1:40. What's going on? Anything else we should chat about? Are we good?
If anyone's got any time tonight, it'd be good to get some more reviews on the funding and wallet page, because I'll probably go over it when I wake up in the morning, which is a while away. But it'd be good to get that PR wrapped up tomorrow, though.
Bosch, your perception of time is so confusing to me that I have no idea, but I will do it in my morning time. I will review it for you. So I'm not sure when that will be for you, but
It's 2 a.m.
I'm on it already. Yeah, I'm on it.
I can't wait to see what you do when you're actually awake.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired now, but it's a bit, that's all right.
Cool. We should let you go to sleep then. Thanks for joining.
I'll stay till we wrap it up. It's all good.
Might as well make it a 2-hour call. I mean, we're almost there.
That's
Do
it.
you want to do a countdown?
A full-length marathon, the record is around 2 hours, right? So we're kind of doing marathon calls.
Yeah,
Just quick,
we can
John,
all use the reactions menu to celebrate it.
Just a bit off topic, but John, did you check out Nunchuck 2.0 and they have the Matrix protocol introduced they use to share transaction and multi-sig data?
Oh wow, no, I haven't seen
Check it out.
this.
Definitely up your alley before you publish your abstractions. But they're using Matrix protocol, and they have an iPhone app that uses Matrix, and you can securely end-to-end encrypted share multi-sig data and transactions and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, like one of the examples I was giving was using Tor as a messaging layer, and just seeing the pain that Steven's been going through connecting through Tor here for sending payments. I'm like, there's no way that we can use this for there's no way that we could use this in like a social setting.
Tor's interesting one. I particularly like with Zeus. Like I connect over Tor with Zeus, and it's I don't mind it that much, but it's just so slow. I've had so many issues with using Tor compared to ClearNet. For an average user, I think Tor introduces a lot of issues.
Yeah, that's why we need to put the internet in Lightning.
Yes. Let's put the real world in Lightning while we're at it.
Yeah. I think
That's
Christoph
it.
is getting bored because he's just, launching random emojis into the
I
chat.
was celebrating the 2 hours duration here. Okay, but at least let me turn off the recording here.
Something we haven't talked about is